everyone, I'm Heather. Welcome back to my week-by-week pregnancy journal. If this is your first time here, I'll be talking about absolutely everything that happened during week 36 of my first pregnancy. Check out the description area for a quick breakdown of this video if you just want to skip around to a certain topic or check how my bump is progressing. So this week, the baby's about the size of a honeydew, which is about 6 pounds and 19 to 20 inches. Development this week, the baby's just still packing on those pounds, and by the end of week 36, day 1 of week 37, the baby will actually be considered to term. It would be early term, but the baby would be fully developed and ready to come out if need be. Symptoms this week, that burning sensation above my belly button about 3 inches has come back, and it's not pleasant. It lasted for about 3 days before it went away again, so he must have hit a little growth spurt again and ripped my abdomen open. Back pains, but they are definitely getting better since being off of my feet and not working and being on maternity leave, so hallelujah. Just being really tired also, like so unbelievably tired that it feels like it just hits you like a Mack truck. Midday, you are just like, I need a nap now. Usually between, let's say, 12:30 to 2, that's when it hits me, because I get up normal time and then it's just like nap time. I think maybe it has to do with the frequent urination at night. It's just so much more that I'm getting up to go pee, and it's crazy. Also, I found myself thinking the other day about getting up to go pee, and usually I'd be like super upset that, oh my gosh, my sleep is interrupted, but then I remember, oh wait, I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have anything to do. I'm on maternity leave. And then I'm like, whatever, I'm up. So I get up, go to the bathroom, and just go back to bed. And I don't get all upset anymore.
Yeah, but you also told me that you feel like having to pee throughout the night is like prepping you for waking up throughout the night to breastfeed.
Yeah, I do feel that I feel that the amount of times that I'm getting up to go pee, it's probably like 6 or 7 sometimes. It's just prepping your body for when the baby cries in the middle of the night, and when you have to breastfeed every 2 hours for the beginning, or however that's gonna work. I'll look into that more when time gets closer, but time's approaching now.
Quickly.
I should know this.
Very quickly.
Anyway, other things, I'm just so uncomfortable sometimes. I just feel like he is just jamming his head really far into my ribs, and it's just, I've heard actually recently that you could put a cold pack on it and might encourage him to get his head out of your ribs, but at that point when it was happening, no one reminded me of that, so I would just suffer. I feel like at certain times he may be just trying to turn, like when his head kind of scrapes along my ribs and is going this way, but never fully gives me that feeling that he has turned. Other things, restless legs are crazy. I just feel like the legs just can't settle down at night when I first get under the covers. Hip aches, definitely. My joints are achy a little bit, my hips mostly. Still dealing with the indigestion. I bought a giant box of saltines now, and I put them in a little bowl and I keep them next to my bed. It's like my little nighttime snack. Not something that I'm craving at night, but it's just something to help push everything down when I wake up in the middle of the night, like barf.
Tease the dog all night.
Yeah, and I tease my dog all night. He sits there near the bowl of crackers like, can I have one? You gonna give me one? And he's such a good boy. He doesn't go up there and eat them.
Oh, he would if he could lick his tongue that far.
I know. And definitely insomnia. Sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night to go pee, I'll lay back down and I literally just can't fall back asleep. I keep turning from side to side and I just can't start dreaming again. I just try and think of things and then try and not think of things, and nothing puts me back to sleep. So I end up like scrolling on my phone on Pinterest or something to try and just make myself go to bed. It's horrible. Cravings this week, definitely ginger ale, ice cream if anything, just again things to help with that feeling of acid reflux. I just feel like my stomach is squished into nothing, so I don't really have any room right now, I feel like, and his head just jamming up in there. It's hard to eat. Other than that, I just feel like I eat random things. There's no rhyme or reason to what I eat, and it's like a little bit of stuff here and there. How my body has changed this week, I am up about 20 pounds. My waist is about 10 and a half inches bigger. My belly is just a giant belly. I just got a big belly. How am I feeling emotionally? For the longest time, I was just feeling very stressed and confused with the whole ECV thing. I'll get into that, but we're just dealing with the question of to do it or not to do it. which is externally turning baby boy from breech to head down. But either way, we're just so excited to meet him. Sometimes I say to myself, like, man, I just want him out now. And then I think to myself, no, you can stay in a little longer because I'm not ready yet.
You better get ready.
I'm working on it.
Procrastinator of the year.
I'm ready. If he comes, I'm ready. But just there's stuff that I want to do. Maybe I shouldn't have procrastinated so much with certain things. Like, I don't know, cleaning the house and packing my maternity bag for the hospital. Just like everything. Editing these videos, because I know it's been a little delayed in posting them. Maternity Photoshoot. But by the time we get our photo shoot, I'll be like 37 and a half weeks pregnant. Usually people like to do that around like 33 weeks. Alright, so things we did this week. We had our 36-week OB appointment, and that was made with the doctor that would be doing the external version. I don't know why I went like this. The doctor. Things we did this week. We had our 36-week OB appointment, and that was made with a doctor versus a midwife this time, because we are now going to talk about the ECV, which is the external version, and possibility of a C-section if the baby doesn't turn, and what our options are there. So we had that appointment with that doctor. He felt for the baby. He said, yep, that's definitely the baby's head. He's still breech, and just went right into talking about ECV. That would be him turning the baby. We would go to the hospital. They would inject you with something through your vein to relax your uterus. I don't know what the medication is called. And then at that point they would do a ultrasound to find out that the baby is still breech. And then from there they would gel up your belly, and under monitors and being in the hospital in case anything were to go wrong, the doctor would then try and turn the baby. So if he didn't go one way, then he would try again to turn the other way. And I don't know what the max amount of times is that they would try to turn the baby before they decide that the baby's not going to turn. But after the procedure, you would stay in the hospital and they would monitor the baby's heart rate and you for about an hour, and then they would send you home if everything was okay. So if this is something that you come across or you find that your baby's breech, ECV means external cephalic version. And you can kind of, Google that and look farther into it. So after talking to the doctor about the procedure, he told us that they prefer to do it at week 37 of pregnancy. So that's when you are technically term or to term. You'd be considered early term, but the baby would be fully developed enough that if anything were to happen and the baby had to be delivered, then it would be okay. The baby wouldn't be preterm. So my next question to the doctor was, what if we decide that we don't want to do the ECV? What happens then? Because we had heard during our prior appointments that they would schedule us for a C-section a week early. So at 39 weeks we would have a C-section scheduled already. And after talking to him, it was kind of a different answer. It was just, no, you don't have to schedule it any earlier. I said, well, how late can we go? And he was like, you can go till your due date. So I'm still kind of unsure on what the final answer is there. I know that they don't want your water to break. They don't want you to go into labor and then have an emergency C-section. So I guess we'll find out at our next weekly appointment what's going to happen thereon if that's the case. I'm not sure if he was saying it in a way like you have all that time up until your due date for the baby to turn, which sounds like a good idea to me. I mean, give him as much time as he can have to try and flip himself. I've heard things, and I've heard babies turning right before their scheduled C-section, right before they check, the positioning, and then the baby's head down and you get sent home and progress and have the baby naturally or be induced. So we'll see. So when we talked about the ECV, and then we talked about what if we don't decide to do the ECV, what happens from there on. And then it would be, well, let the baby try and turn on its own or schedule a C-section. During this appointment also, which was my 36-week appointment, they did the GBS Swab, which is the group B strep. Everybody gets swabbed for that around this time. They do an internal swab, and they also get the other hole down there, which, some of you might not realize that, so don't be shocked when it's one swab and right into butthole. My husband told me not to say butthole. But it was surprising. I mean, so after he did the GBS swab, then he proceeded to put some gel on his fingers, and I'm like, what is he doing? He listened on my belly already for the baby's heart rate with the fetal Doppler, so what is he doing? Because I have not had an internal exam since we had the bleeding incident. which wasn't even an internal exam because she only swabbed my cervix with a Q-tip. So he actually did the internal to check for any dilation so that he would have a baseline for if we do this ECV procedure, which makes sense. But I have heard from the midwives that, they prefer not to do too many internal exams if not needed. But obviously meeting with the doctor and having to possibly have a procedure and be pushed into labor early, it seemed like a good idea to do that. Not dilated at all, which is a good thing. Other things we did this week was we waited till now to get a 15% off of our Bye Bye Baby registry. So it's a registry completion discount, and you get 15% off of everything, including name brand items. The name brand items is the thing that we were really looking forward to. So we actually went out and purchased our stroller, which is the Upper Baby Vista. Then we got another car seat base for the Upper Baby Mesa. And then we got our baby Bjorn bouncer. And we also purchased a whole bulk of other things, but I had a bunch of 20% off coupons and then $10 off your purchase of $30 or more. So you bring all of those. So they're Bye Bye Baby or Bed Bath & Beyond coupons. They'll scan them and they'll just keep using as many as they can. So definitely save up all of those coupons and bring them with you for when you bulk buy to finish your registry. After that, we went out to lunch. It was awesome because there's not going to be many more lunches that we have solo until we're ready to venture out on our own. But it was nice to go out to lunch, my hubby and I. And then after that, we also met up with our brother and sister-in-law, and we talked to them about their unsuccessful ECV procedure and how it was for them to go through C-section. And they had this done a year ago. So it was good to talk to them about the pros and cons of it. They have a little bit of a different situation because they found out that their baby was breech at 38 weeks. So they had very little time to make any decisions. It was kind of like they found out and then that day they were sent to the hospital to have the ECV procedure done. So they didn't really have time to think about whether they even wanted to do it or not. They just thought it was the normal thing to do, but you have an option. So I'll talk to you a little bit later about my thoughts on that, my pros and cons, and how we're going to figure out if we want to do it or not. But overall, she said it was a wonderful experience, and once you get your baby out and in your arms, there's nothing that you could even think negatively about. Either way, I think that things are gonna be the way that they're supposed to be. So after that, we actually met up with more family. We went to my mother-in-law's house and just sat there and talked with my mother-in-law, and then my other brother-in-law and sister-in-law were there, so we let them know what our options were and went over that. Just keeping everybody in the loop in the family of like how things are unfolding. It feels good and to get everybody's opinions and just let them know where our brains are at. This week, I also had a little friend date. My one friend's husband was going to be gone all night, so she said, "Do you want to cook dinner?" And I said, "Yeah, let's cook dinner for Joe." Because he was the one that was at work, I was off, and she was home. So I haven't cooked dinner in, a little while because it hasn't been a bad wife.
No.
Because I'm pregnant, and that's my excuse. So we made a really beautiful dinner for my husband, and he was very impressed.
Yeah, it's delish.
And it was nice to have like a little friend date and do something like that because we've been talking about wanting to do that for a while.
Your friends can come over and help you cook with me, for me, any day of the week.
I'm still seeing the chiropractor twice a week. This week, my husband was doing the moxibustion to my toes, and that was the point where we decided, okay, this is the time to talk about, let's make a decision about the ECV. What are we gonna do? This was about 3 days after our appointment. I figured I'd give myself a few days to make a decision because we left the appointment, the 36-week appointment, with an appointment to have ECV done that next Tuesday. So a week and a couple days from then would have been the appointment to turn the baby. And they said that that was the easier way to do it, was to schedule something and then you can call and cancel it if need be. So that was a little shocking because I thought, oh, I would just call and schedule it if I want. To now have this appointment made and then be the one to cancel it, to make that decision to cancel it, I feel like was kind of like, I could have just procrastinated and never made the appointment, but it was made, and now I have to make the decision of, is this the right thing to do to not do this procedure? So we sat there and we talked about it. I had given him some of my thoughts on pros and cons about it, and I have a lot of thoughts. I just feel that externally turning the baby, in my mind, doesn't feel natural. I have a lot of worries too, and everybody's gonna have their own comments and their own opinions about it, but I just feel if the baby's not turning, it's for a reason. Sometimes that's not the case. Maybe they're just stuck in that position and need a little help, and the ECV is exactly what you need. But in my head, I think about the cord being around the baby's neck. I also think about what my mom had said with her first pregnancy. They had to use forceps to assist the baby out. So I just go through all of these scenarios like, okay, well, what if they try and turn the baby and then it doesn't work? Or what if they try and turn the baby and it does work? Or I go into, the baby goes into stress and then I have to have a C-section right then. Then there's what if the baby turns and then we leave the hospital and then he turns back and then I need a C-section anyway. And then there's what if you turn the baby, he stays head down, I go through natural labor, it progresses enough but not enough to have the baby, and then because of the not progression, they put you through a C-section anyway. So then you're going through all of labor and labor pains, and then you're still getting a C-section in the end. Yeah, I would miss out on the natural birth, but I think at this point and just getting this far, my main concern is I want him out safely. And my husband, I think, had other thoughts, and that's why I was considering, I don't want to just make this decision on my own. I want to talk about it with him. For a little while there, he wanted to try all of our options, but then we talked about why I feel certain ways about not doing it versus doing it. And after going through all of those scenarios where it would end in a C-section, yeah, there is the possibility that they could turn the baby and I could go through a natural labor and he could come out fine. But I don't know. I just can say how I feel, and I feel better with canceling the ECV. So I talked to my husband about it and he talked back to me and the communication happened. And sometimes it's hard to communicate that kind of thing, and you don't want to just be like, this is my answer, blah blah blah. I was just trying to be open-minded about it and going back and forth with just, well, this is this is that, this is this. And he said, I'm okay with doing whatever makes you comfortable. I don't want you to have surgery, but if you don't want to do the external version, then I am here to support you with either decision. It's your body. And I said, okay. And then by the time he was done doing the moxibustion in my toes and putting peppermint oil on my belly, we're still trying the natural things to get the baby to turn. And if he wants to turn, then he will turn. But we made the decision to cancel the ECV appointment.
My whole take was that I wanted to help you think through the options without being nervous or being afraid. So talking about them in a real way. That was my whole thing.
Yeah. So
it wasn't like, I want you to do a certain thing. It was like, no, I want you to think through, are you afraid of the what ifs? Or are you, once we found out, are you like, oh, well, a C-section is a more matter of fact? That was my point. It wasn't like, you're copping out, because I don't want anybody to think that I thought that of you.
No, and I don't think that I made it seem that way.
No, I just want you to be healthy and the baby to be healthy, so it's a catch-22. You as a mother are thinking about the baby being safe versus being in distress, and I don't want the baby to be in distress. And me as a dad being like, I don't want the baby to be in distress. He hasn't even seen the world, and we're going to start poking him in the ass to flip him around. That's not cool. So let him kind of be where he is.
Yeah.
And
so together, I think we're on the same page about not doing the ECV and just letting it progress naturally. If he flips, he flips. I still have hope. I've heard many stories about babies flipping and flipping near the end weeks of, pregnancy. So I don't know. Another thing was just considering the C-section, and yeah, when I thought about the C-section and knowing that could possibly be the end result, it was upsetting. There were multiple things that made me upset about C-section versus a natural birth, but now I've looked up and I found that they do something called a gentle C-section. It's just the procedure is a little different. They still keep the sterile field, but they use different things like a clear drape so that the baby can be passed right to you. They put the electrodes instead of on your chest to monitor your heart, they put them more towards the back and side of your arms so that the baby can come right onto your chest, and breastfeeding starts right away. They do some delayed cord clamping, but again, that's all depending upon if your hospital does the gentle C-section. This next appointment coming up, I think she'll have to feel my belly and see if the baby had turned at all, and then if we talk more about a C-section, then I can ask them the question of how does the hospital run? Do they do anything similar to this gentle C-section? Or if I can birth plan, ask for some of those things, and maybe they can kind of be accommodating to do that if they don't do the whole gentle C-section procedure. So we'll see. I'll keep you guys updated. This week also we had our last birthing class, which was the hospital tour. They did a whole tour of labor and delivery, if you had a C-section, where it would happen and what you would do, what room you would come into, and then a little tour of the postpartum area. And then we sat and we talked about essential oils. She had a woman come in and explain how essential oils can really help during your labor and delivery process, and even postpartum and recovering for pain and stress and just everything, calming. So that was really cool. I think they had Young Living essential oils come in. So with the hospital tour, it was just really cool to see, oh my gosh, this is where my baby is going to enter the world into. And this is where our family and friends are going to see our baby for the first time. Just make sure you ask a lot of questions if you do a hospital tour. Certain questions like visitors and who can be in the delivery room, how many visitors you can have, if you can use recording equipment or cameras or photos, because even they touched on that, and I think they said that you can record or photograph the before and after process, but the actual delivery of the baby coming out, I'm pretty sure they said was not permitted. So we're going to have to check into that, because we would really like to document that, if for anything, for ourselves. Just the moment that the baby comes out and gets placed on your chest, that's the best part. I mean, I can't imagine not having that, but I mean, if it's a rule, it's a rule, and you can't break the rules. She said that some places, these people hire birth photographers to be in the room during delivery, and then they're super bummed to find out that they can't be there during that process and they can't take photos of that. So it's all liability issues. So just make sure that you look into that before you hire something like that to come to your delivery. Also, we got pregnancy paint for my belly. I want my husband to paint something on my round little rumpy here.
Round rump.
Bump.
Paint your rump.
I ordered it on Amazon. I sent my husband out to get paint from one of the craft stores, and he had trouble finding it. I guess because he was trying to find the FDA approved and safe for your skin during pregnancy one, because I told him that I saw something on Amazon and he couldn't find anything that had that written on it, so he didn't feel comfortable. So I just ordered this little kit, and he's gonna paint on my belly within the next week or so, right?
Yep, something cool.
We scheduled our maternity photo shoot. We actually scheduled it for Monday, but nearing the end of this week, we're looking at the weather, and it's supposed to be rainy for like 5 days in a row. So next day that looks like almost a clear shot would be Wednesday of next week. So I think I'll be about 37 and a half weeks, but we have it scheduled, and I'm excited for that. I got a couple dresses. I also found my husband this Dreft scent booster. He's been looking for it for about a couple months now, and for some reason, wherever he's looking, he cannot find it. So I went to the ShopRite, which is the supermarket near us, and found it. And there were actually like only 3 containers left. So I got 2, brought him home, and his jaw dropped. He was so excited. It's the little things.
Oh, it smells so good.
He already used it.
Not for my stuff, for the baby stuff.
I also was able to schedule a dinner with friends that I went to nursing school with, so it was 4 of us, and that was awesome to just get that in before the baby pops out. Lots of girl time, catching up and talking about babies. I got these awesome leggings in the mail today from SRC. I am going to link them below and put a picture here, but they are for pregnancy, and then they also have a set of leggings for postpartum, which helps with just tightening and compression. So I'm super excited to wear those leggings postpartum. A couple of things that I just want to share that I've heard from other moms to do before it's time is to get a manicure and a pedicure. Definitely get your pets treats, like to keep them occupied when the baby comes, to reward them. It's something you really don't think about. Make sure you have your pets have food. Definitely make a hair appointment if you color your hair and need a haircut, just something to freshen yourself up. Get enough sleep, and a lot of women told me to definitely invest in some Depends, which is postpartum for the bleeding. It's just easier all around. What's comforting to me, definitely sleep, just letting things progress naturally, canceling my ECV appointment, all of those things comforted me a lot towards the end of this week and definitely de-stressed me a little bit. So things I'm scared or nervous about, the one thing that I can say that my mind keeps coming back to, it's called a Nuchal cord, which is when the umbilical cord wraps around the baby's neck once or multiple times. And I think that's part of my fear in doing the ECV. But I just want to reiterate that I'm not scared of having a natural birth now, which may come off as seeming that way. And that's one thing I talk to my husband about also. It's like, well, now considering C-section for the longest time, are you now scared to go the natural route? That's not the case at all. What I don't want to do is I don't want to do anything to put my baby in distress, even though it seems like such an easy procedure. But the ECV, it's a 60% success rate, and to each his own, and we all have our own opinions. So it's just how I personally feel about the procedure to not do it. I want it to progress naturally, and if he turns by himself, which we're going to continue to encourage to do, then that so be it. Like then I get my natural labor and potentially a vaginal birth. But if it ends in a C-section, I have, done enough research about it. I know the pros and cons to C-section and everything, and I am okay either way. I just want my baby to come out healthy and without any harm and safe. So that's my recap of week 36. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and definitely click the little bell if you want notifications of when I post my next video. And now let's take a look at how my bump is progressing. All right, so this is my belly for week 36, day 1 of week 37.
Real quick. Can I feel him? Dang, girl. You got a nice green dress on. Do you know what it's doing? It's sticking out. It's like sticking out.
Yeah, no.
No, like different that way. I'm being serious.
Can you see me like from here down? No, like if I take my pants off right now.
No.
Okay. Let's take my pants off.
So yeah, 36-week OB or the doctor.
Are you recording me? Take these pants off. Come on. Stop.
I can't even. What's comforting me?
That's your face.
Sleep. Canceling ECV. Leggings.